Hey guys, tonight we were going back, way back to a time of marble columns, flowing toes, and some of the most whispered about after parties in history. Yes, that kind of Roman party. The kind that makes modern bachelor weekends look like PDA meetings. We're diving into what ancient Roman sex parties were actually like. Warts, wine, and weird power dynamics included. You probably won't survive this, not just because of the social politics and bizarre customs, but because if you weren't born into the Roman elite, you weren't even on the guest list. And if you were, one bad joke could cost you your social standing or your head. Before we get started, take a moment to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of thing. No pressure, just vibes. Drop your city and the time you're reading this. I'm curious who's diving into Roman debauchery at 2 a.m. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into this journey together. You're a few days into summer in Rome. Real summer, where the marble burns and the streets smell of olives and sweat. You're not poor, but you're not important either. You've got enough coin for decent sandals, but not enough to skip the public baths. Tonight, though, your luck changes. A friend of a friend, still not sure how, slips you a folded wax tablet sealed with string. You crack it open. The script is loopy, perfumed. You've been invited to a gathering at the Villa Petronia on the Aventine Hill. Everyone's heard of Petronia, widowed twice, never remarried, famous for her poetry, her peacocks, and her wildly inappropriate parties. Rumors swirl of a musician tipped in pearls and a senator vomiting into a statue's mouth. The real thrill isn't the chaos, though. It's being seen there. If you're on the list, you matter. If not, you're nobody. Tonight, you matter. When you arrive, the gates don't swing. They unfold like they were designed for theater, not security. A guard, or maybe a very large statue. Hard to tell. Check your name. You're ushered through a garden smelling of crushed mint and something faintly musky. Two peacocks scream nearby. Yes, they're real. Inside the atrium, everything is exaggerated. Marble floors reflecting oil lamp flames, statues of gods watching from every angle. There's Venus, half naked and smug. Bacchus, wine cup raised, eyes glazed. Even Mercury, his winged feet stepping on someone's discarded clothes. People are already half undressed, and you're early. Smart move. You grab a goblet of wine, probably Falernian from the way the server winces as he pours, and try not to look too eager. Across the room, guests laugh too loudly. One's a poet, ink on his fingers, no sandals. Another has rings on every toe, probably intentional. Here's something people forget. Roman sex parties didn't start wild. They began with dinner, an hours-long, elbow-on-cushion feast where courses arrived on silver trays, and everyone tried not to spill sauce on their toga. You sit near a fountain under a ceiling painted like the night sky, masking your nerves. The woman to your left eats oysters with her fingers, wearing a sheer stola and an amber necklace. She introduces herself as Clytemnestra, doubtful that's a real name. The man to your right, halfway through his second wine dilution, insists you try a fig soaked in honey and pepper. It's good, surprisingly good. Or maybe you're already buzzed. Historical note, these parties weren't everyday affairs. They were status flexes, risk-heavy, and rarer than we think, hosted by elites like Petronia to gather influence or make a statement. They started structured, polite, a little tense. Everyone watching everyone else with just enough plausible deniability. Fun fact, Roman invitations sometimes included spoken riddles, past and secret. Solve it, and you earned your spot. Tonight, no riddle, flattering but unnerving. As dinner winds down, music creeps in, soft flute, then harp, then a low male voice singing in Greek. Incense lights up, cinnamon and resin weaving through the air. A servant offers a bowl of warm oil. Clothes loosen, not frantically but rhythmically. Laughter borders on moaning. Someone's sandals get tossed into a potted laurel. The shift happens subtly. Petronia enters. Not dramatically, just appears, gold bangles stacked up her arm, hair pinned with bird-shaped pins. She nods, smiles like a queen, and raises her glass. Let's see who can still speak Greek by dawn. The rules change. Lamps dim in teasing intervals, walls flickering in candlelight. shadows dancing suggestively. You're not sure if it's the wine, the incense, or Petronia kicking off her sandals and walking barefoot to the room's center, but you're being pulled into something. You're not ready, but you're not leaving. You follow the slow migration from the dining room to a lounging chamber, more performance space than room. Cushions spill onto mosaic floors, walls painted with half-draped nymphs and overconfident satyrs, an oculus above letting in cicada hums. The villa is built for sound, echo, scent, skin, decadence disguised as leisure. The room fills like wine from an amphora. A poet recites Ovid, desire, and metamorphosis, though you're distracted by a woman brushing her fingertips along another's neck. Conversations turn to murmurs. Eyes meet, linger, slide away. No one's fully themselves anymore. The wine and promise in the air take root. Petronia glides through like a benevolent spider, whispering to a young soldier who blushes like a lobster. She drops a cord from her waist, not to bind, but as a gauntlet, setting the tone. You overhear gossip. He brought figs. That's real Egyptian linen. She's on her third cup. Judgment lives here too. Everyone's calculating who's seen with whom, who's bold, who's waiting to pounce. Historical aside, elite Roman villas often had rooms for scandalous gatherings. Cubicula or triclinia, sometimes entire wings built for sensory pleasure. The Villa Petronia's reputation is structural, not just rumor. Musicians emerge from alcoves, one playing a double aulos, its snaking melody wrapping around your ribs, another plucking a kithara for rhythm. The beat is slow, sensual, slightly off-kilter. Someone laughs from the gut. A hand brushes a thigh. You stop counting touches. A servant offers boiled goose tongue spiced with cumin. Odd but good. Maybe it's the alcohol. Fringe fact. Some villas had secret passages for slaves to move unseen, refilling wine or replacing incense without disturbing the performance. You catch movement behind a marble slit. Someone's always watching, working. The orgy doesn't start with a bang. It's a game. Petronia dares the poet to name a body part in Latin and kiss it on someone. It's silly, meant to be, but it works. A young man kisses a woman's foot, saying planta. She giggles, dares him back. It's a chain reaction. Neck, shoulder, inner elbow, soft laughter, and shifting cushions. No one's fully naked, but modesty's evaporating. Scholarly debate. Were these parties common, or are we exaggerating based on poets like Juvenal or Petronius' Satyricon? Some say they were rare, tied to the ultra-elite or festivals. Others point to wall paintings and inscriptions suggesting truth in the tales. Not everyone was throwing bacchanalia, but some definitely were. Clytemnestra leans in, asking if you'd like to see the Midnight Garden. You say yes. You pass a statue of Mars with lipstick on his helmet, entering a courtyard where grass is soft, stone benches warm. Laughter, moaning, glimpses, a hand gripping marble, a back arching in torchlight, a discarded robe. It's not chaos or vulgar. It's choreographed, a slow unraveling. You're less a voyeur, more a musician joining the harmony. The night isn't about climax. It's about permission, the freedom to be seen, touched, chosen, or not. Even here, there are choices, boundaries, power. Your sandals are off, the stone cool beneath your feet, a secret only they know. The Midnight Garden is stranger than expected. Spiral hedges, gurgling fountains, flickering torches. The air smells of crushed myrtle, frankincense, maybe burnt rosemary, old, deliberate. People drift through shadows like veterans of this ritual. Petronia didn't invent this. She inherited it. You sit by a fountain, watching a group on cushions like petals. They play dice, staking favors, not coin. A loser blindfolds the next player. Another massages oil into shoulders. Clothes hang like afterthoughts, status shedding with fabric. Roman party fashion, loose togas for men, sometimes bare-chested. Women in sheer stolas or chlamys, dyed saffron for heat and wealth. Jewelry everywhere, gold bangles, nipple rings, toe rings. Perfume layered with musk, rose, cinnamon, even nard from India. Smelling good was moral, a sign of civilization. Quirky fact: some parties had flavorers, human air fresheners trailing incense like judgmental candles. Nudity wasn't inherently sexual. Context mattered. A nude statue was art. A nude guest, also art apparently. But status ruled. A patrician woman feeding dates to a servant could do as she pleased. If he took the lead, it was scandalous. Consent was tied to hierarchy, not enthusiasm. Not everyone's free here. Oil servants and musicians are ambience. Their pleasure irrelevant, compliance expected. A girl, maybe 14, carries figs, eyes low, trained to be invisible. Guilt mixes with wine in your stomach. Historical fact: Roman society ran on slavery. Slaves often outnumbered free citizens. At these parties, they served, played, fanned, and more. Exploitation was woven in like gold through silk. Scholarly debate: did slaves have agency? Some gained influence or affection. Others were trafficked, assaulted, discarded. The truth is fragmented, half recorded in stone and poetry. A woman dances, magnetic, sash catching on her ankle. She's the performance and conductor. A new drink, cinnamon, mulled, fiery, makes your skin light, tongue loose. A man asks if you've been to Pompeii, drawing a shape on your palm. You follow. The performance of pleasure is exhausting. Some guests slip away to protect their names, or because the buzz fades. You're still here, barefoot, lips sweet, caught between thrill and unease, learning the rules. The most important: you're always watched. Time stops working right. Maybe the wine, maybe the flute's rhythm, maybe the choreography everyone seems to know. The feast was foreplay. Indulgence started at the table, but doesn't stay there. Couches rearrange, cushions scatter, platters hold grapes, dates, odd cheeses. The dining room melts into something else. Torches low, whispers replacing conversation, guests sprawling in limbs and laughter. The Roman convivium was ritualistic. Timed courses, curated entertainment, wine mixing and art. Moderation meant style, not restraint. Vomiting on the host's floor wasn't scandalous, just embarrassing. You kept pace, ate the eel with pomegranate glaze, nodded at the right jokes. A servant hands you a small, cloudy vial, warm from their skin. Rub, they whisper, not drink. It smells of cinnamon, myrrh, crushed violet. You dab it on your wrists, your skin warms. Romans loved aphrodisiacs. Oysters for their Venusian energy, figs with honey, wine steeped with rocket, pepper, even wolf liver for stamina. Thankfully not here. Petronia returns, bangles gone, gauzy wrap barely on. She claps, music stops. It's time, she says. No orgy music, no pile up, just a slow wave. Kisses, fingers on shoulders, lights dimming like the villa, knows the cue. A nobleman, drunk but smug, calls for a game. A bowl of scrolls appears. Draw one. Fate chooses your pleasure. You pull, kiss the person with the longest hair. Easy, a man with thick curls. The kiss is warm, deliberate, long enough to forget where you are. Others draw stranger tasks. Recite poetry before a kiss. Draw wine figures on a back. It's suggestive, layered eroticism. Scholarly debate. Were these games common or literary exaggerations? Some say they were elite rituals, others satirical inventions. The truth is murky, but tonight they're real. Someone's topless, another wears only a necklace. Oil slicks hands and skin. Couples slip behind curtains. Others stay open, ivy on marble, slow and silent. You sip wine, feel it pull behind your eyes. The music returns, a heartbeat rhythm. You're not sure if you're drunk, aroused, or overwhelmed, maybe all three. This isn't just a party. It's an atmosphere, a living thing. You're in it, whether you act or not. The air turns electric. Heat, fabric, flutes weaving a pulsating presence. Some guests vanish to side rooms, leaving laughter's echo. In the main chamber, the night's heartbeat continues. A couple under sheer, netting ripples gently. Another group paints with crushed berries, giggling like children. A man in a lion-skin cloak tells a story, sparking breathless laughter. Voyeurism was half the point in Rome. Baths, festivals, even bedroom murals with acrobatic frescoes normalized watching. Here, everyone pretends not to look, but they do. Two men whisper and bite shoulders, watched by guests examining a mural. It's a game. An older man, bare but for a chain necklace, joins you. First time, he asks, smirking. You nod. You're blinking too much. He clinks your cup. Welcome to Rome, then leaves, trailing myrrh. Laughter erupts. A game of nager, fact, deny, or do. A woman dares a man to recite poetry on one leg. He fails, loses his tunic, gets kissed. A couple locks eyes, hands almost touching, attraction and art form. Not everything's about the final act. The tease is the reward. Scholarly debate. Was this romantic or political? Roman love was strategic, marriage a tool, affair statements, pleasure political. Yet poets like Ovid wrote of yearning and heartbreak, hinting at real craving beneath the performance. The energy softens, slower now. Petronia reappears, hair down, curl sticking to sweaty skin. She's a signal, no words needed. Rose petals scatter, honeys offered off skin. Desire was sacred. Venus for love, Bacchus for ecstasy, even Priapus for luck. A man chants Greek about nymphs. Guests offer fruits to a Venus statue, slick with oil. You're not sure if it's a ritual or a performance. The Florialia festival honored fertility with erotic games. Bakshik rites were so wild the Senate cracked down in 186 BCE. A goddess, Libidina, lust, had followers, phallic amulets warded off bad sex. Gods are here, subtle as incense. A woman arches like an altar, kissed in sync, wines poured and lapped off skin. Scholars debate. Was this religious communion or elite escapism? Likely both, sacred and profane, looped together. A woman dances, casting a spell, guests mimic her. A syrupy drink, cinnamon, clove, bitter, tingles your mouth. Clytemnestra warns, it keeps you awake, but not in your head. The room hums with a melodic chant, pulsing in your bones. You're not observing, you're part of it. The gods are invited, the wine poured, the game's in motion. There's no turning back, and you don't want to. The initial wave of heat and hunger has settled into something almost tender. Guests lounge, their touches quiet and soft. Some are asleep, curled together like cats. A woman reclines, a peeled grape between her lips, eyes closed in contentment. Another braids a companion's hair. In the corner, a harpist plays, notes falling like dew. A final servant glides through, leaving tiny bowls of water, fresh figs, and warm cloths. Cleanup begins subtly. No one is pushed out, but the party doesn't end. It recedes. Clea finds you, her hair loose, streaked with glitter from another's chest. She looks at you as if she's seen the entire night unfold in your eyes. You did well, she says, pressing a fig into your hand. Most don't make it past the first cup without trying to strip or take their status too seriously. You smile, unsure of her meaning, but accept the figure. Here, indulgence isn't about abandon. It's about endurance. You're still here. A strange quiet settles, not silence exactly. Murmurs persist, bronze cups clink as they're set down, and someone dozes into a lover's lap. A hush blankets the villa like the last breath before dawn. The moon has shifted, casting silver light through the oculus, catching a shoulder's curve or the shine of oil on a hip. It no longer feels like a party, more like something ancient, older than wine or Rome itself, as if the human need for closeness has collapsed time, drawing everyone into a breathless, wordless moment of understanding. Then you notice the lines again, not physical ones, long blurred and enjoyed, but social ones, invisible yet undeniable. A young, flushed man, perhaps drunk or drugged, reaches for a noblewoman's thigh, her hair gleaming with gold thread. His touch is gentle, respectful, but she slaps his hand away without a glance. No scene, no outrage, just the reality of rank. You feel it too, in subtler ways. Finer wines offered to some, clay cups to others, servants kneeling deeper for certain guests. Petronia moving through the room like a queen in exile, all power and ease, while others orbit her without approaching. Even naked, status clings like a second skin. Here's the historical truth. In Rome, social rank was your moral compass, your permission slip, your leash. Freeborn citizens outranked freedmen, freedmen outranked slaves. Women's power varied by family status. Some wielded terrifying influence, others none. Even at a party like this, where everything seems untamed, those rules linger like incense. Everyone knows who can touch whom, which lines not to cross. Yet they're crossed constantly. Take Messalina, Claudius's third wife, a notorious social climber. Scandalous accounts, likely exaggerated, claim she entered a brothel under a pseudonym, outlasting other prostitutes in a contest of clients. True or not, the story spread reveals a key truth. Outrage wasn't about the act, but who performed it. You see it play out tonight. A young servant, barefoot and wide-eyed, is drawn into a group by a woman wearing only rings and perfume. They laugh, beckoning him closer. He hesitates, then obeys. No one asks if he wants to be there. His body is part of the decor. Romans adored scandal. Seducing someone beneath your station was predictable, but being caught was the real sin, not for morals but for reputation. Yet, whispers of connection persist. A silver-haired noble sits with a servant boy, not touching, just talking as equals, laughing in sync. Not every moment is performance. Scholars debate whether these parties were mere power displays, extensions of systems controlling politics and marriage, or if real emotions bloomed within them. Desire, messy and inconvenient, sometimes ignored status. Love found its way into orchestrated encounters. Petronia, leaning against a pillar, sips from a goblet, watching with a goddess's serenity. She catches your eye, smiles, lifts her glass. You wonder how many secrets she holds. Alliances formed, rivals flirting out of boredom or spite. Power trades here, not in coins but in glances, invitations, promises of future favors. A woman with bronze skin and a laugh like cracked glass whispers, "He's going to owe her after this," nodding toward a half-drunk senator draped across a pillow, an ambassador watching closely. Alliances form through complicity. Yet, even in this sprawl of pleasure, loneliness lingers. A man at the room's edge hasn't spoken in hours. A woman laughs too loudly, glancing over her shoulder. A servant wipes spilled wine with practiced grace and dead eyes. You lie back, staring at a painted ceiling. Venus riding a dolphin, cherubs scattering petals that never fall. It's beautiful, absurd, perfect. This night is a mirror. You came expecting excess and decadence. You found that, but also clarity in being seen and seeing others. As the night frays, reality creeps in. You wonder what happens when clothes are donned, oil washed away, and public masks return. For now, the hierarchy holds, but so does the wine. The stories written in sweat and whispers elude historians. You sit, wrapped in fading heat, skin sticky with oil, smoke, and someone's perfume. The air is heavy with aftermath. Bodies sprawl in pleasure and exhaustion, but not all look satisfied. Some came for obligation, others to survive. You notice the silences now, hollow spaces between sighs and laughter. The servants, ever present, are the silent machinery of this fantasy. A young girl with a frayed ribbon gathers cups, her bare feet silent, trained into invisibility. An older man mops wine spills, his tunic stained, hands calloused. Drunken nobles toss grape skins just out of his reach, laughing. His mouth tightens, but he keeps wiping. Rome's economy relied on slavery, not just in fields but in villas, intimate spaces like this. Household slaves, field slaves, public slaves, some were tutors or doctors, others cooks or sexual attendants. Their fates varied. Some gained trust, others died unnamed. At this party, they're never guests, always neutral, a contradiction of empire, close enough to touch, not to speak. A guest grabs a young boy's chin, inspecting him like market fruit. The boy's face stays blank, mastered in emotional absence. Some elites kept pueri delicati, Boys trained for beauty and obedience, often sexualized, their existence shaped by another's desire. Consent didn't exist for them. A slave couldn't refuse. At parties like this, the line between pleasure and coercion vanishes. Scholars argue whether slaves formed close bonds with masters or if such affection was just control in disguise. Watching a servant carry a half-conscious guest, eyes lowered, you lean toward the latter. This villa runs on quiet cruelty, a machine fueled by flesh and silence. You drank the wine, played the games, but now feel the cost. The girl gathering cups meets your eyes for a second. Weariness, not anger. You look away. Clea, draped in another's robe, settles beside you, laughing softly. "You're quiet," she says. "Too much wine." You nod, avoiding explanation. She offers a date, leans on your shoulder. Everything has changed. The party's unsung truth lives in the gaps. Fear in a servant's eyes, stiffness in a boy's shoulders, the invisible wall between guest and ghost. Pleasure came at a cost. You're shivering now, not from cold, but an afterburn, like your body regrets saying yes. The villa dims, laughter brittle, wine sour. Some guests came to impress or escape, others to survive. A woman lies limp, her partner whispering unheeded. A man flinches at a touch, eyes on the exit. This party was a test, a crucible wrapped in satin. Every gesture is noted, weaponized later. Reputation was currency in Rome. Hoarded, shattered, traded. A misstep could ruin you. Romans loved gossip, but indulgence had rules. Be daring, not desperate. Marcus Caelius Rufus, an orator, fell from grace after a soured affair, his reputation never recovering. You see others here, flirting with disaster, seeking visibility. Etiquette manuals advised Rome's elite on surviving such nights. How to compliment without seeming insincere. Avoid reclining too close to superiors. Stay controlled. Some guests try too hard. A man adjusting his robe, a woman checking for belonging, a freedman laughing at his own expense. In the hallway, whispered deals, land marriage, cloaked in smiles. Petronia's parties matter because they're where power meets flesh, consequences arriving in silence. A man, tall and bearded, touches your back, intentional. "You've made an impression," he says, citing Petronia's praise. A compliment, threat, or proposition. Your uncertain laugh widens his smile. He leaves, but the weight lingers. Desire here is measured, seduction strategic. The villa breathes, opulent and human, but it's a performance of survival. Dawn nears, birds chirping beyond the walls, jarring like reality's call. Guests stir, gathering robes and dignity. A poet recites Ovid's Amores, lines of love and loss drifting like incense. Romans saw beauty as scaffolding for pleasure. Music, poetry, storytelling elevated the night. Poets performed, their words shaping reputations. Erotic dice games, engraved with instructions like "kiss the neck," added theatrical flirtation, letting guests play without risk. Clea stirs, stretching, her silk wraps slipping. "Still here?" she whispers, voice scratchy. You learn where you disappear. Guests reassemble themselves, jewelry as armor. A servant, dark circles under his eyes, is slapped playfully by a guest. He doesn't blink, miles away inside. Were these parties liberating? Some say they allowed desire outside norms. Others see repackaged hierarchies. You see both, freedom for a few at a cost. Petronia reappears, purple wrap and gold clasp like a crown, barefoot, surveying the damage. "You survived," she says, amused. "Barely," you reply. "That's how you know it was good." Her tone is flat, her smile tired. "Drink some water," she advises, moving on. You sip, the mint shocking and clean. The poet finishes, earning soft applause. The magic fades, costumes return. This wasn't just indulgence. It was an excavation of power, longing, and a need to be seen. In the earliest hours, you walk through the villa, stepping over wine stains and scattered fruit. Lamps flicker out like retiring gods. Guests move quietly, some entangled, others vanished. In the garden, Three people stand before a mirror. Two women adorn a nervous man with kohl around his eyes and a crimson sash. They laugh gently, adjusting his posture, offering earrings. He smiles, relieved, as they call him Julia. Roman gender expression was fluid in private. Cross-dressing and role-play thrived at feasts. During Saturnalia, roles reversed. At parties like this, lines of gender, class, and age blurred. Elagabalus, it said, wore women's clothes and sought surgery, hinting at gender variance, though some argue it was for shock. The scene sticks, the courage to be seen, even briefly, as one's self. Clea appears, teasing. You look like you've seen a ghost. She leans on you, companionable. The trick to surviving these nights? Knowing who you are when the mirror's in your hand, not theirs. That lands heavy. Many here didn't recognize their reflections, hoping for an identity handed to them. The sky glows lavender, dawn creeping. You wander the garden, the air now olive trees and earth. The wine's gone, dancers asleep, laughter silent. A table holds used goblets and abandoned sandals. Your mouth tastes of raisins and regret. Wine was Rome's lifeblood, symbol, necessity, status. Hosts were judged by its flow. Cutting it short was social suicide. Romans mixed wine with water, herbs, or honey, ignoring dilution ratios in practice. Drunkenness was frowned upon, but accepted if graceful. Different wines had temperaments. Falernian made men bold, Caecuban sentimental. Some believe vineyards thrived on ashes of criminals. A man retches into a fig tree, a servant waiting resignedly. A woman giggles, cries, giggles again. Lovers share a robe, laughing. You sip a cup, less indulgence now, more habit. The villa spoils with pleasure, wine feeding forgetfulness. Petronia, stone sober, watches, her untouched cup in hand, orchestrating without indulging. You didn't come for pleasure, you came to understand it. The night revealed power, longing, and loneliness. The servants, the silent machinery, bore the cost. You walk toward the garden, dawn breaking, carrying the weight of what you've seen. You finally understand. The wine was for you, the guests, to soften, loosen, and expertly manipulate you into revealing who you are and what you want. Petronia watched it unfold like a surgeon observing blood rise, precise, patient, predictable. How many secrets did she learn tonight? How many alliances did she strengthen or break with a well-timed refill? Scholarly debate. Was wine in Rome purely recreational or a tool of control? Some argue communal drinking fostered camaraderie, letting citizens bond and confess. Others see it as Machiavellian. Those controlling the wine controlled the conversation, tone, intimacy. These parties were designed to disarm and extract. The goblet in your hand feels heavy. You set it down. Behind you, a guest tries to stand and fails. Another slaps his back, joking, but the laughter feels tired, an echo of itself. The night has overstayed its welcome. Everything that was going to happen has happened. The rest is inertia. You take a final walk through the atrium, dining room, and garden, retracing steps through a battlefield of empty plates and secrets. You pass two guests asleep in each other's arms, faces vulnerable. A servant wraps a guest in a cloak. A statue of Bacchus has a grape stuffed in its mouth. Not funny anymore, just tired. The wine did its job. Now comes the cost. The final hour before dawn feels unreal, like a glitch in time. Stars fade, the sun not yet risen, the world caught between breaths. In the villa, it's quieter. Servants clean openly now, no longer hidden, moving with practiced speed and silence, sweeping away pleasure's evidence, dragging cushions into rows, gathering goblets, sandals, hairpins like they're collecting sins. Remaining guests watch, some with vague guilt, others indifferent, a few with hollow eyes, unsure where to go. You sit upright on a long couch in the atrium, the wine's fog lifting, replaced by a strange clarity born of staying awake too long. Everything sharpens. An oil stain on the floor, wilted flowers, a faint crack in a marble column no one's repaired. A new sound emerges. Music, not the sensual melodies from earlier, but lighter, brighter. An older man in a worn robe sits cross-legged in the garden, plucking a cheerful lyre tune. It cuts through the fading, erotic haze like a breeze through incense. Another man joins, reciting not poetry but crude, rehearsed jokes. You're torn between laughing and cringing. The punchlines are filthy, sharp, political, a dig at the governor's mistress, a barb at a senator's loose chastity, a jab at a priest's suspicious temple renovations. No one stops him. It's tradition. Historical fact. In Rome, satire wasn't just entertainment. It was cultural commentary. Poets like Juvenal and Horace tackled corruption and hypocrisy with precision. At banquets, hired performers, often slaves or freedmen, specialized in obscene poetry and sharp jokes, enjoying more free speech than most, as long as it was humorous. Say the wrong thing, though, and you risked whipping or worse. Quirky detail. Romans loved riddles and puns with sexual innuendos, like describing acts poetically without direct terms. Dirty mad libs in Latin, shouted by someone in a garland and half-draped tunic. This laughter feels different, not seductive, but communal, a release after intensity. Clytemnestra sits beside you again, head on your shoulder, smelling of rose water and ash, makeup smudged. You don't speak, listening as the lyre shifts to a gentler tune. Petronia does this every time. She murmurs. And on a laugh. Smart. You nod. Does it reset the room, clear the guilt? She shrugs. For some. The sun creeps into the courtyard, faint but sure. Statues, Bacchus with grapes, Venus mid-seduction, Mercury stepping on a turtle, look ridiculous in daylight. The drama fades like props from forgotten play. You sip water, chilling your tongue, body still processing the night. It wasn't just sex or politics, but something in between, intimacy as performance, vulnerability as currency, control as surrender. Scholarly debate. Were these events authentic desire or pure performance? Some say everything in elite Roman life was staged, rank, home, marriage, even pleasure. Others argue the theatricality created space for authenticity, where pretending led to truth. You see both in this scrambling moment between night and day, with smudged makeup and echoing jokes. People look honest, not because they confessed, but because they stopped pretending, even briefly. You exhale. The party ends, not with fireworks or scandal, but with a song, a joke, and sandals returning to marble. The sky turns pale gold, streaked with twilight, the villa sighing. Light spills into once dark spaces, under couches, between pillars, across floors where lovers rolled in silk and oil. It's an exposure. Nothing's changed, yet everything feels peeled back. The spell is broken, leaving tired, sticky bodies in a heavy, judgmental hush. Guests leave in twos and threes, readying sashes, rinsing hands, applying perfume to mask the night. No one speaks much. Gossip will come later, whispered over honey cakes. The quiet choreography of retreat feels like a stage emptying. You wander to the main hall, where servants gently nudge lingering guests as the sun rises. A woman in gold sandals hesitates over olives. A man with smudged eyeliner hums, possibly drunk, possibly lost in time. Two older men argue about a temple wine offering, reeking of vinegar and guilt. Then you see Petronia, barefoot in the garden, robe half-tied, watching the sunrise like it's someone else's. She looks tired, alone. Beautiful view, you say, opting for small talk. It was, she replies, eyes on the horizon. You throw a good party. A faint smile. I throw the necessary kind. Silence. What does that mean? It means no one comes for the figs. This is the unwritten part, the hangover of power, the raw aftermath of being the room's center, then standing alone. Petronia's robe is stained, eyes rimmed with kohl, feet dirty, yet she's more powerful, real, dangerous like this. Historical fact, for elite Roman women, hosting was soft power. Barred from office or voting, they wielded influence through salons, connections, bedrooms, banquets. Women like Clodia Metelli shaped marriages, careers, alliances by curating guest lists and seating. Petronia's gain tonight, favors, loyalties, enemies to bury with gossip, remains unclear. You recall the man with the perfect smile who never returned. Petronia hasn't asked about him. Fringe fact: a convivium was a political maneuver. Guest lists signaled allegiance or ambition. The Senate sometimes watched parties closer than laws. Rome ran on relationships. You ask Petronia, "Do you ever throw a party for fun?" She give a tired look. "No, but I used to pretend that's why I did it." The words hit like a brick. She steps past, trailing sandalwood and fatigue, calling for water. A servant appears instantly, cup in hand before she finishes speaking. She drinks slowly, like it's sacred. These parties have layers: sex, music, wine, laughter on top, strategy, masks, motives beneath, and at the bottom, bone-deep loneliness. Scholarly debate: were these gatherings community or distractions from isolation? Some see them as aristocratic glue, shared rituals and spaces. Others see fractured elites, desperate to connect, rarely succeeding. You see both. A couple embracing by the fountain, not kissing, just holding, a man slipping out, glancing back, a servant brushing petals from a statue, humming. You're still here, half-oiled, half-exhausted, wondering what you've become part of, if you'll see these people again, how long this night will linger, scandal, romance, regret, or a mirror you didn't expect. The sun rises fully. A temple bell rings. The last guests vanish into the light. You step outside, the light hitting like a slap. Too pure, too honest. Marble steps cool your feet. The street stirs with market stalls and a cursing donkey car driver. You smell bread, horse sweat, olive oil, waste, the real world ugly grounding. After the villa's sensory blur, it's like cold water. Your sandals squelch, damp from a courtyard spill. You look back. The vine-covered villa looms, neutral in sunlight. Without being inside, you'd never guess what happened. Laughter, skin, size sealed marble. Gossip, Rome's many-headed beast, slinks through porticos, bathhouses, temples, senators' wives' lips. Petronia's night will fuel weeks of whispers. Who kissed whom? Who slipped away with an envoy? Whose son fell asleep in another's lap? Who pretends it didn't happen? The real tension lies in the aftermath: edited stories, silences in the forum, social exclusions, lost invitations. You walk the Aventine Hill toward the Tiber, robe loose, realizing you left a ring behind, maybe intentionally. People pass, bakers, slaves, temple goers, none knowing where you've been. You're just another bleary-eyed Roman stumbling home. Reputation in Rome was dignitas, your moral weight, your social shadow. Losing it could end careers, marriages, lives. Historical fact: Julius Caesar divorced Pompeia not for infidelity, but for suspicion tied to a festival scandal. Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. Quirky fact: Roman rumor mills produced invectives, written satire and slander, ancient burn books that ruined lives. Your name in one could make you a punchline. You remember fragments, glances, half-finished sentences, deals in corners, a servant's too long stare, Petronia's knowing look. How much will be twisted, lamented, forgotten? Scholarly debate: were these parties about sex or control? Some see them as informal power courts, where guards dropped just enough to be measured. Others call them escapism, pressure valves for a status-obsessed society. Control and escape aren't exclusive. They were the same: silk, gold, or nothing. A cart splashes mud on your ankles. You don't flinch. You think of the man who held your chin, Clytemnestra's laugh, the servant girl who saw through you. Will you return if invited? Will you hesitate? Tell yourself you're not that person? These parties don't end when you leave. They crawl under your skin, linger in quiet moments, visit when a touch recalls unasked questions. They change you slowly, until you're throwing your own party, wondering who'll remember you after the wine runs out. The sun breaks through Rome's skyline, turning tiles into a sea of fire. You squint, not from light, but from what you now know. A child chases a dog. A man hawks bread. Life continues oblivious. You're no longer just a guest. You're part of the story. At home, in a quieter neighborhood of worn brick and crooked shutters, you pass a baker who nods, familiar with the walk of shame. You ignore crude jests from apprentices carrying wool. Here, glances aren't invitations, smirks aren't flirtation. You must pretend nothing happened. Then the rumors hit. Under a fig tree, women gossip. She left with both of them. At the bathhouse, men smirk about Petronia's cultural indulgence. Coded tales of forgotten wives and forbidden touches. Your name slips out casually, part of Rome's morning digest. Your stomach drops. A kiss, too much wine, and now you're cataloged, your body and choices fodder for stories. Scandal was currency. Nero's staged orgies, Caligula's rumored brothel palace, Messalina's alleged prostitute contests. True or not, people believe them because spectacle trumped truth. Quirky fact, Pompey's graffiti named names. Marcus did it here, Lucia likes it loud, turning people into entertainment. You wash your face, strip your robe, stare at your reflection. You look normal, tired, smudged, not an immoral pleasure cult member. But your body isn't yours anymore. It's the story's. Some will call you bold, touched by someone important. Others, pathetic, a drunk who didn't return the same. You think of Clytemnestra's laugh, her whispered truths, wondering what they'll say about her, if they'll remember her name. Lying on your mat, staring at ceiling beams, you hear carts, a barking dog, a fishmonger's bad singing. Life carries on, but everything's off. These parties chase you home, slip into your name like stolen perfume, grow roots. Scholarly debate. How much damage could they do? Some say Rome was too scandal-hardened to care. Others, that slip-ups were career-ending, especially for women or those without allies. You don't know your fate yet. Maybe your name fades, replaced by a bigger scandal. Maybe Petronia hosts again, and you blur in a memory. Or maybe this transforms you. Not disgrace, but something else. Once seen in that room, nothing fits the same. Not your robe, routine, or reputation. A week passes, maybe more. Time feels warped. You're no longer sure who you were before the villa, or who you will be when the next invitation arrives. The morning after Petronia's party fades, then the next, and the one after. You slip back into routine, public baths, fruit market, temple steps where prayers are tossed at indifferent gods. The streets are the same, faces familiar, yet everything feels watched, as if you've gained an audience. Stories spread like ripples. At the fishmonger's, someone mentions a senator stumbling home with lipstick on both cheeks. In the bathhouse, a man claims he saw a general entangled with his house poet. At the bakery, two women debate whether a matron was invited or merely tolerated. The tone is always part disgust, part envy, laced with the thrill of gossip over olives and stale bread. Your name slips into conversations, not shouted, but dropped casually like it belongs. Someone calls you Petronia's new favorite. Another wonders what you did to earn the invitation. You don't correct them. You could admit you were barely noticed, drank too much, or reclined too close to a reckless senator's son. But their lie is more compelling than your truth, so you let it grow. Each silence makes it stronger. Let's talk about infamia, Rome's social execution. Not always a legal sentence, but a stain spread by whispers. Once marked by infamia, invitations stopped, credit vanished. Allies fled like rats from a sinking ship. In 18 BCE, Augustus's Lex Julia de Adulterias criminalized adultery, especially for women, with exile or execution as punishment. Men faced consequences too if the scandal was public, but the law aimed to control behavior, not protect feelings. Petronia's parties skated the edge, carefully curated, plausibly deniable, just wine, art, and too much oil. You feel it when someone stares too long or avoids your gaze entirely. Being the center of a story isn't fun. It's a trap, a frame you didn't build but must inhabit. People claim your story, your body, as if you're not there. Sometimes you pretend you aren't. Outside the forum, you spot the senator from the poetry reading, his eyes once hazy with wine and secrets. He sees you, lips twitching, but looks away. Too much sunlight, too many witnesses. You feel invisible again, but not like before. Now, people remember you when it suits them, forget you when it doesn't. Messalina, Claudius's wife, looms as a cautionary tale. Sources, biased and bloodthirsty, claim she lived a double life. Empress by day, chaos by night, allegedly marrying another man in secret, an act of hubris that led to her execution. Some scholars argue she was framed by enemies to justify her removal. Others believe she orchestrated orgies and power plays. Either way, she embodies the danger of a woman unafraid of her desire. You feel that pressure now, not just interesting but strategic, a threat. In Rome, perception is reality. Roman senators were barred from low taverns, but they slipped in anyway, disguised, bribing doormen. The higher the rank, the greater the risk. Hypocrisy was baked into the system. You notice it in overly sweet smiles, a merchant's sudden interest in Petronia's next party, a stranger offering honeyed dates under the guise of hospitality. They think you hold the key. Clea reappears in a public garden, leaning against a column, her smirk familiar, but her eyes wary. "They're watching you," she says, skipping greetings. "I know. Good. That means you're not stupid." You sit beside her, no longer just partygoers reminiscing over oil and harp music, but survivors of a game. They'll want something, she warns. Seduce it out of you or shame you into giving it away. What do? Decide what story you want them to tell. That sticks. You can't escape the narrative, but you might shape it. Days later, the party feels truly over. Not just the night, but its echo in your mind. At the public fountain, an amphora against your hip, the sun beats down. A woman argues about water pressure. A child chews a fig resentfully. It's ordinary, yet you feel a click like a door shutting. No one stares with curiosity or judgment anymore. A new scandal, an ambassador and an underage musician, has stolen the buzz. Your name fades into the city's background noise, like dust on forgotten statues. Yet the after lingers, a stone in your sandal you don't remove. The night changed you, but the world acts like it never happened, a quiet, constant erasure. Being unseen, after being seen, feels unbearable. You pass men playing dice in an alley, their laughter sharp. One jokes about a party where clothes are optional and morals go missing. You don't react, but note it, another echo surviving in someone's mouth. Rome was built on aftermaths. In Senate meetings, marriage negotiations, or tense family dinners, the morning after mattered more than the night. After the Bacchanalia scandal in 186 BCE, the Senate limited gatherings without approval, not to stop behavior, but to curb freedom's chaos. Some Romans visited temples post-party, not to confess, but to re-anchor, believing indulgence disrupted order. You find yourself at a shrine to Libitina, goddess of death, leaving a fig and lighting a taper. A barefoot girl sweeping nearby nods, not warm, not cold, just acknowledging. "I've seen things too," her look says. You walk home lighter, but not clean. The after isn't guilt, it's residue. Faces, laughter, tears, Petronia's fleeting crack in composure. What did it cost her to host? Did elites see these nights as harmless? Some scholars say yes, viewing pleasure as a divine counterweight to duty. Others argue every cup was calculated, every whisper a political move. The truth lies between. Scandals weren't about sex, but intention. Did you mean to seduce, eavesdrop, be seen? Denying intent was key. An accident, too much wine, an open door. Intent made it a challenge, and Rome didn't tolerate challenges. You grow quieter, nodding more, listening, reassembling. You're not bolder or wiser, but aware, a curiosity in Rome's machinery. People saw you stripped, soaked in pleasure, caught between choices. They're waiting to see what you become. So are you. One morning, wrapped in a linen sheet, a silence settles in your chest, thoughts paused. You don't replay the party's flutes, moans, or Petronia's brassy voice. Instead, you dwell on the edges. Pauses, unspoken interruptions, things unnamed. Rome prides itself on indulgence, but fears the mirror. What was too much, even for Petronia's villa? You pace, sweep an already clean floor, wash your hands twice. An itch lingers, a realization. It wasn't the wine or performance that left you raw, but watching boundaries crossed, some laughing, others frozen. Rome had taboos, despite its decadent reputation. Incest, though rumored, was condemned. Claudius faced criticism for marrying his niece Agrippina. Caligula's alleged acts fueled his assassination. Sexual violence against slaves lacked consent. They were property. For citizens, violations were status insults, not just moral crimes. You recall the trembling boy serving wine, the woman laughing too loudly after a kiss, moments buried under music or bodies. Rome turned its head but could snap back with teeth. The Bakshik rites were banned not for eroticism, but for un-Roman coercion, threatening societal control. Parties weren't lawless, curated with unspoken rules on who could touch, cry, or say no. Did Romans understand consent? Some point to laws and poems. Others argue hierarchy trumped mutuality. You saw structure, not violence, but not freedom either. People took what they could within invisible lines. In the Forum, a man grabs a woman's wrist. She pulls back, embarrassed, and he walks off muttering. No one notices. Clea's words echo. The trick is knowing when you're being hunted. Rome is full of hunters, some in togas, some in perfume, some feeding you grapes. Prey doesn't realize it until walking home, barefoot, feeling something unnameable taken. You move slower now, cautious, mapping the terrain beneath the pleasure. In a gritty tavern, far from silk-draped villas, you sip cheap wine amid rough men, tradespeople, off-duty guards, a disguised senator's bodyguard. Laughter erupts nearby, not joy but satire, quoting Juvenal or Martial, dirty verses mocking banquet-goers, gold on his chest and shame in his lap. A glance grazes you. They don't say your name, but they don't need to. Petronia's latest acquisition. They jest, laughing louder. Satire was Rome's sharp mirror, dissecting hypocrisy. Poets like Juvenal cut without naming names, protected as art but risking exile. Street performances mimicked elites, crude, illegal, yet unstoppable, fueled by Rome's endless appetite for gossip. Was satire entertainment or resistance? Some say it reinforced norms, mocking deviance. Others see it as subversion. You feel both, studied by strangers, turning your night into a punchline. You sip your sour wine, not angry, but dissected. Your body has become a metaphor, a lesson, a warning, a joke. Satire flattens people into symbols. You're no longer a person who made choices, but a shape in someone else's story. You leave before more can be said, slipping into the street, blending with the crowd like a shadow, seeking cover. After scandal, whispers, and awkward glances comes mockery, the final stage of Roman social digestion. They admire, desire, fear, then laugh at you. Laughter is power, reclaiming control, pushing people back into boxes. Passing a butcher's stall, the thick smell of meat catches in your throat. You recall Petronia's words. Late in the night, guests scattered like exhausted gods. They'll always try to make a joke out of you. The trick is to laugh louder. Then, it seemed poetic, now it's advice. On a quiet street, your shadow stretches in amber light. Graffiti marks a wall. A crude man kissing a donkey, with Lucius was here, and he couldn't last a minute. Childish, brutal, immortal. Someone centuries from now might laugh, not knowing Lucius, but feeling the sting of being stripped of dignity. How long will your name linger? A week? A month? Until another story takes its place? You consider writing your own verse, not to defend, but to seize control, to remind Rome that behind every joke is a person, behind every scandal a body, behind every smile a strategy. But you keep walking. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in Rome isn't shouting. It's waiting, letting them think you're forgotten, then showing you remember. You expect no invitations after the whispers, your name fluttering through the city like parchment in a windstorm. Yet, 2 weeks later, a wax tablet arrives. No perfume, no riddles, just a name scratched in impatient strokes and a location near the Esquiline Hills' old aqueducts. The host isn't Petronia, but someone new. The note ends. Initiates only. Dress light. You shouldn't go. You know it, but you do. The place is unassuming, a doorway beneath an ivy-covered wall, dirt crusted from centuries. A silent servant guides you through a mossy, damp corridor into a circular, candlelit chamber with a low ceiling. A half-dozen others sit on cushions, speaking in hushed tones. The walls bear strange paintings, vines, torches, open mouths, eyeless faces, a garlanded bull on hind legs. This is older than Petronia's games, less about beauty, more about truth in shadows. You sit, ungreeted, unintroduced. Someone offers a cup. You take it, not asking what's inside. It tastes of cloves and metal. Welcome to the mystery cults. Historical fact: while Romans practiced state religion, sacrifices to Jupiter, prayers to Mars, many joined secretive mystery cults. Not blasphemous, but suspicious, requiring initiation and silence. The mystery was their power. Famous cults included the Eleusinian mysteries for Demeter and Persephone, the Egyptian-rooted cult of Isis, and the Bakshik rites for Bacchus/Dionysus. These were transformational, breaking and rebuilding you. The Bacchanalia, before the Senate's 186 BCE crackdown, spanned classes and genders, alarming elites with its ecstasy and equality. Fringe fact: the Senate feared the Bacchanalia not just for orgies, but for empowering those outside the hierarchy. This gathering lacked Petronia's theatrical elegance. No gold, poetry, or dancing, just witnessing eyes. You're seen not as an ornament or story, but a body among bodies, stripped of status, held in spiritual tension. A tall, pale woman with ink-like hair leads, unsmiling, unflirtatious. She pours drinks, makes signs, speaks. Tonight, we loosen the rope. You chant in Latin, Greek, and an unknown tongue. The room moving in rhythm, breaths sinking, heartbeats aligning. Your identity drifts, not drunk, not high, but tilted, thoughts blooming like ink in water. Someone takes your hand. You allow it, not from submission, but curiosity. Unlike Petronia's, there's no performance, no games, no senators or poets. Just shared permission, mutual undoing. A whisper on your neck, compliment or prayer, reveals the cults weren't about rebellion, but release from Rome's rigid rules, where every gesture had consequences. Here, there are none, only transformation. Scholarly debate: were these cults liberating or controlled? Some see them as escapism and cryptic chants. Others, sacred sanctuaries for those crushed by Roman order. The truth depends on who you are entering and leaving. You feel peace, not because this is better than Petronia's, but because it's less curated, less Roman, more human. You don't know who touches your shoulder next, and you don't care. You lean in, loosening the rope. The morning after feels different. No aching body, no guilt or accusatory perfume. You wake slowly, gray light filtering through your window, thinking not, what did I do, but what did I learn? A faint purple mark on your wrist, from someone's firm but gentle grip, echoes connection. No names were exchanged, no titles or stories needed. That anonymity wasn't emptiness. It was freedom from Rome's obsession with status and reputation. At the bathhouse, you soak not to eavesdrop, but to wash. Your body feels like a field after rain, rinsed, waiting. The cult leader guided, not orchestrated, inviting pleasure. Historical fact: in the cult of Isis, ritual cleansing and ecstatic rites made the body a bridge to the divine, not a dirty vessel. The Bacchanalia, seen as a threat, faced violent suppression, not for eroticism, but for freedom. Fringe fact: some sects used diluted snake venom in wine for visions, biting lips to speak with gods. Whether it worked or knocked them out is unclear. In a polished bronze mirror, your face looks softer, less defensive. At the market, a grain merchant with burnt almond eyes stops you. I heard you went east of the aqueduct. You nod. Good. More people should. He leaves, and you realize this rumor is different. A code, marking you for insight, not scandal, on a hidden map of Rome. That night, by a single oil lamp, you write, when no one owns your story, it stops being currency. It's a beginning. You sleep without armor, a question mark now. People pause when you enter rooms, voices trailing off, unsure what to make of you. Mystery is power, and in Rome, the quietest power is the most dangerous. At a merchant's villa dinner, new money, minor poets, matrons, you arrive late, dressed simply. The host, with too many rings and too little wit, boasts of a cousin's affair with a Vestal virgin. Talk turns to those parties. A woman in a coral tunic teases, eyes hunting you. They're doing things now that would make Caligula blush. You stay silent. A young man with a sharp smile retorts, maybe Caligula needed a blush. Or maybe the stories got bigger because the truth wasn't enough. The table quiets, tension shifting. He adds, I'm defending truth, or the idea people should know the difference between scandal and sacred. You feel the thread of the aqueduct night, pleasure as more than escape. Historical fact, Caligula's excesses were likely exaggerated post-assassination to justify his death, painting him as a monster to restore moral order. Fringe fact, Pompeii graffiti listed brothel prices alongside political slogans. Pleasure and power were neighbors. The host tries a crude joke about honey and figs. You sidestep with a vague compliment about his marble floor. In the citrus-scented garden, you wander, thinking how laughter flattens the uncomfortable sex, desire, fear. Scholarly debate. Was Roman laughter about sex acceptance or repression? Some see it as liberation. Others, a nervous performance to keep taboos at arm's length. You light a taper, illuminating a marble bust with a scratched heart, and beneath. What lies beneath? Rome's illusion is that the surface, marble, silk, pleasure, is all. But you've seen the cracks, heard the chants, kissed nameless lips under painted gods. You don't need to explain. You are the question. Petronia finds you on the Palatine Hill, falling into steps silently, her cypress scent light, braid functional. So, you found the others, she says, meaning the aqueduct gathering. You nod. I never told you about them. Didn't think you were ready. You raise an eyebrow. And now I am? She shrugs. You walk toward it without an invitation. That's the only test. Initiation is chosen, not granted. She continues. They're afraid of you now. Everyone who thought they understood you, who used your name as gossip garnish. You want to argue you're no one, no orchestrator, but power doesn't need to be loud. Historical fact. Women like Fulvia and Clodia wielded influence through dinners and gossip, not titles. Fringe fact. Barred from voting, elite women funded campaigns and spread propaganda through lovers' poems. Petronia mentions Lucius Plautus, now fled to Sicily over forged inheritances tied to her party. People say your name came up. You stiffen. I didn't. She cuts you off. I know. What matters is they think you could. Your presence is dangerous, not for what you've done, but what they believe you might. Scholarly debate. Were these parties safe spaces or traps? Some see performative freedom. Others, raw honesty under pleasure's influence. Petronia watches a hawk overhead. Now you decide what you want to be. You don't answer, still tracing how a single invitation led here. People think you know too much, saw something sacred, and your silence makes you dangerous. Petronia leaves with a look. You'll figure it out. Evening brings calculating glances. A senator's aide averts his eyes. A merchant straightens his tunic. A gossiping woman walks away. It's not glamour or scandal, but something sharper. You don't perform. Rome watches. The most revolutionary act is owning your story and not telling it. Before dawn, you wake to stillness. Rome hushed in the gap between night and market carts. Barefoot, you walk past sleeping ivy and stirring bakeries to the Aventine Hill's edge. Gold spills over the Tiber, the city amber cast, brittle, beautiful. You recall Petronia's party. Nervous, curious, touched without asking. Then the aqueduct's chants, hands connecting, not consuming. That night, untied a knot in your chest. Rome doesn't know what to do with you, but it no longer defines you. In the waking forum, vendors shout, philosophers argue, yet the noise is background. You've joined a rhythm, not watched it. Historical fact. Roman rites of passage, like shaving beards or veterans returning, mark transformation through responsibility, not just survival. Fringe fact. Some believed ritual pleasure reshaped the soul, ecstasy realigning, not escaping. You pause as young men recite poetry, one stumbling. She drank from the god's cup and found her tongue divine. They don't notice you. You don't need them to. At home, you write, not for others, but to map the silk, oil, laughter, whispers that unthreaded you, the gaze that tasted power. You write your true name, not Rome's gossip version. Scholarly debate. Did pleasure culture elevate or erase individuality? Some see scripted performances, others pauses where people found themselves. You think Rome will always watch, but you've stopped needing its approval. You've been scandal, secret, question, now choice. Blowing out the lamp, you climb into bed, the air smelling of figs and coming rain. Rome murmurs, but you don't listen. You are the murmur now, drifting to sleep with one thought. You survived, were seen on your terms. The real story wasn't Petronia's doors or aqueduct chants, but what they did to you, peeling you back until the version caring about whispers became irrelevant. You learned performance versus presence, being wanted versus witnessed, pleasure as currency versus clarity. Rome spins new stories tomorrow, but yours lives in the in-between, not erased, not explained, just understood. You don't need to prove anything. The most radical act in this spectacle-obsessed city is to remain. Pull the blanket higher. Let Rome's hush settle. You're not the same. You were never meant to be. Close your eyes. Let marble, gossip, oil, firelight dissolve. The last sound is your breath.